Welcome, dear running friends. Today we have a very interesting guest here, a movement scientist, who will really go into the depths of running possibilities with us. For years we have heard various theories about exercising, about moving with cushioning, forefoot, heel run and so on, and again you also hear of problems, tibia inflammation, calf problems, shortening, and how we can best train the body and really get in balance with nature. That is what we hear from our guest Karl Müller today.
Karl Müller.
Hello, dear Karl. Nice that you're here.
Hello, dear Karina. Thank you.
Yes, an exciting topic for me too. When I trained as a trainer 20 years ago, it was a time when everything had to be protected. We weren't allowed to turn our heads back and actually had to move very carefully, especially in aerobics. And then there was also the issue of running shoes, which should have special cushioning. And now I'll just ask you from my experience, at that time, I tried to integrate the subject of jogging into my life, and I had complete resistance. I felt uncomfortable running. I got hip pain. My calves and tendons hurt. And then I stopped doing it because I really thought, no, it is not going well. What was the problem there?
It must have been because the movement was unnatural. If we move naturally, be it while walking, be it jogging, be it with any kind of movement, when the move is made as it's given by nature, as God made us, if we move like this, then it cannot hurt unless we overdo it.
At that time, we had the statement that we should land on the heel, and I always had the feeling that every time you hit your heel, you get such a complete blow through the body.
It just depends on what my goal is. Why am I jogging? Am I doing this because I want body forming, perfect body forming? Because I want to be world champion, or just want to get faster, because I want to do it for my joints. It depends what I want with it, and it's basically different if I want to get faster. It's fundamentally different than if I want to get healthier.
Okay.
And barefoot in the forest, in nature, that is surely the best for the health, because then I have the forest already. It already gives me something, the unevenness, and in the forest it's also nice and soft in between, pleasant. Then there are roots again. This diversity is good. But if I, as a trainer or when jogging in general, as a jogging instructor, I only do everything on the flat, hard floor. And then in some shoes, where I also measure how my foot is walking and then put in a corresponding insert, and then I walk, I take tens of thousands or hundreds of millions of steps on this hard floor, and then there's something not right about this insert. Even if it's just a tiny bit wrong, then it adds up, and then there are problems. It could be heel spur, it could be a shin splint, an inflammation.
Periosteum inflammation.
Could be periosteum inflammation at the tibia. It can be a patella chondropathy. So inflammation of the patella tendon. Muscle imbalances can lead to secondary problems, to hip problems, and so on. Then everything really has to be perfect, and that's impossible. Walking, monotonous movements. I'm now walking on the flat, hard ground, and repeating that a million times. It's dangerous. Because in nature, man is built for uneven surfaces, for diversity, and not for this monotony.
You brought us some pictures with you.
Yeah, that's a general picture of walk analysis. And with the walk analysis, you can see how the foot hits the ground. Basically, in science, in biomechanics, angles are measured and forces are measured. And I am a scientifically trained person. But as far as these walk analyses are concerned, the biomechanics is so one-sided. How long do you stand on one leg? Stride length, forces, and so on. There are these ground reaction curves. They say far too little. To be honest, although I am trained in this field, I am not really a friend of this. I'm more for diversity, for walking barefoot in nature. And then it comes down to what is the goal? Or the goal of all of us should be that we remain flexible and pain-free for a lifetime. That we can do our favourite sport our whole lives. This favourite sport can be hiking, could be cycling, could be playing soccer, could be skiing, could be tennis, could be anything that we have always loved and want to be able to do until the last breath. And there are certain reasons or certain dangers, certain red lights that we miss. Red lights that we miss, that we ignore. And it can be the wrong shoes, it can be the wrong surface, it can be the amount of training, it can be stress, it can be the ego, where I catch myself just wanting to get faster and faster instead of wanting to get healthier. But when we have the common goal, to be able to ski for a lifetime, to be able to play soccer, to be able to play tennis, to be able to jog, then we really need to know how to do it. And what kind of measures we should take.
Yes, with me the motivation was really to begin this barefoot walking. But then I also got to the point where I go barefoot and I walk through the fields. I often think there is now all the manure, all the pesticides get back into my body via my foot. I want this real experience, this natural one, but I don't want the toxins or stepping into dog shit. That also happened to me before. So I really found when I used your shoe for running, I'm back in nature and have this feeling now. Without these disadvantages, such as toxins and everything, which were actually not in nature, and it protects me a little bit from ways of hurting me or shards of glass or whatever. I found this beautiful, that I have the connection to nature again through the shoe.
Well, there are also barefoot shoes. You can, of course, go out into the field with them. And if you go into chilled meadows or something like that, then you can take them off again. Barefoot in the forest, on the walking track, I think these are good options. And wherever you have hard, flat floors, our shoes are certainly a good option because that is very varied. You can go to either side because they're not only cushion, because cushioning itself is very dangerous in my understanding, but because our soles spring back, you always set the centre of gravity a little differently. You have a large variation in movement. Everywhere on tarred paths, on gravel paths, because you can train very well with our shoes. Just walking as well as hiking or jogging you have to jog a bit differently than with normal jogging shoes.
I would be interested in the differences because I experienced it myself too, that I now take much smaller steps while jogging.
Yeah.
And why? Well, I can tell that I'm feeling better, but I still don't understand the difference from the old way of running with the cushioned shoe to your shoe now. What nuances are implemented differently? And also the advantage behind it.
If you jog in our elastic springy shoes, then it would be wise, as you say, to take shorter steps, but faster steps. To be active with the whole body, completely upright. So not paying attention to the speed, but more on being completely upright on the active, on tensing the muscles and making very fast movements. Because then you always jog in balance. Then you're always balanced. All neuromyofasciae are active. Every deep muscle is in motion. Then nothing adheres. And you also train the fine balancing muscles. They then also protect the joints.
Another difference that I noticed is that I turned inward in my old shoes, and also the inside of my knee went inwards as a result. And with your shoe, I kind of roll over the outside wall, and I also noticed that my knee remains completely straight.
If a sole cushions, so with all soft shoes, all cushioning shoes, the chance is very high that this is not exactly perfect for my body. And somewhere, a millimetre or two often falls strongly inwards. Then I also become passive. My intrinsic suspension apparatus, the muscle, the ligament, tendon, it all reacts less quickly when I walk with cushioning shoes. And then it's trained to be passive. That hardly works in our shoes. There's always a tension, which is more likely directed towards the outside, so you are more likely to start contact with the floor in supination position, so as not to fall inward. Then rotate the foot in a spiralling movement over the big toe. You are much more active with your muscles than with a cushioning shoe.
Can I also, well, I noticed it myself, the knee no longer bends. That bothered me. How about bow legs? Can I influence these misalignments?
Yeah, bow legs and knock knees can be corrected by balancing. Imagine if you walked on a rope all the time, all your life, or a year of tightrope dancing. Then the leg axis aligns itself, so balancing walking aligns your leg axis. It starts at the bottom of the foot, that the foot doesn't fall inward. When the foot falls inwards, then you get knock knees. If the foot falls outwards, it creates bow legs. But if the foot is always in an active position, neither supination nor pronation, but in the natural movement from pronation to supination, then the leg axis aligns itself automatically, and you have a great chance that that can be corrected. And knock knees and bow legs are often the cause of meniscus damage. In the case of knock knees, it's the outer meniscus. But wait, now I have to be careful. With knock knees, it is...
It goes inside.
Inner meniscus. No, it is outer meniscus problems. And inner meniscus in bow legs.
It's being squeezed on the outside and it will be opened here.
One of them is pulled apart. That's rather good. squeezing is bad. But that gives a neutral position, and neither the inner nor the outer meniscus are overloaded.
What I also noticed, if you can say something about it, I come home more straightened in my spine after jogging, as if someone had pulled on me. No longer this compressed, where you somehow still have tension in your neck. But really such a liberation from the whole tension system.
What you did during the jogging session, the half hour or the hour that you jogged, constantly doing this quick springing up with these quicker leg movements, and actually that tension before you hit the ground, this is saved in the brain and in the fascia apparatus. The fascia apparatus is the onboard computer, that's where it's saved. Like a tennis lesson. When you always do the same, the right movement, this is also saved. This is saved in your walk. If you take off our shoes, then go barefoot in the meadow, you still have the feeling...
You walk like a queen.
Exactly.
It was really like that.
A little proud. How can I even walk around so proudly?
Only I then stepped directly into the dog shit. That grounded me again. I thought, off to a great start. But it really was like that. I went for a run and then took off my shoes and thought, wow, really?
Yeah, it gets saved.
Really nice, great. Did I forget to ask something, especially for walking and running?
Yeah, people ask what is better now, walking, hiking, or just strolling. And then I ask back, what is the goal? And when the goal is doing your sport for a lifetime, you need a little bit of everything. In my opinion, what is not absolutely necessary is Nordic walking. I don't want to tread on too many people's toes now, because I know many people do Nordic walking. I say it anyway because I like to say what I think. Nordic walking, or using sticks when walking, can make sense going up. It always makes sense when you have rollers or something sliding under your feet, like cross-country skis. It makes a lot of sense there. But if I have static friction, well... If I really push off because I want to train my upper body, but when I do Nordic walking properly, I train especially the triceps, not much more than the triceps. And for the rest, I block my reactive arm swing. I think this is so important, that the upper arm, the upper body, can reactively swing, so that all of these neuromyofasciae can play naturally. For me, jogging also has a high aspect of reducing stress. And if the stress is to be relieved, then all muscles must be able to move freely. And I'm convinced that the sticks are a hindrance. I would never walk down with sticks and support, because then I lose the ability to go down. Actually, how do you go down would be worth a show in itself. By the way, if you have pain walking downhill, there's a great opportunity. Jog downwards while rolling, with very, very small steps.
Rolling over?
Rolling over the heel. Of course, this works best with our shoes, or with our hiking boots, where you can roll. And you will immediately, but you can also jog downwards with very fast steps, just as normal. Then it helps against the knee pain when walking downhill. You can go backwards, Or best of all, you roll downhill. You take short steps and tighten the shin muscle, slowly holding the muscle and slowly rolling downwards. It's a technique that you have to learn first, of course. When you've learned that, you can roll down and you'll have sore muscles in the shins and sore muscles in the whole front muscle chain. But of course, you focus on training those, which is very healthy. And it trains you too. So preparation is also good for the sport that you would like to keep doing throughout your life.
Super.
Great.
Ja.
Now, I've skimmed everything a bit.
Yes, but it's extremely interesting, especially when it comes to jogging. And this walking downhill story. A lot of people suffer from it and want to know what options they really have.
What I could and should add, perhaps, many of my friends, my gymnast friends, my soccer comrades, they can't do it anymore. They have knee and hip pain. And then switch to cycling because it doesn't hurt. And then think that's a solution. Of course, there are very good aspects to cycling. You get around in nature, maybe with a couple of friends. It is very good for the cardiovascular system, but it is harmful to the knees and hips. Because I'm doing a shortening movement again. I'd have to make a stretching movement. It would be very important if you had knee or hip pain. You should learn to walk differently. There are other programs that you can watch where you can immediately become pain-free despite knee osteoarthritis. With hips or hip osteoarthritis, you can also become pain-free very quickly, but have to do hip flexor stretches, certain exercises, less sitting and so on. But there are alternatives. You should also ride a bike, but you shouldn't think that this is now healthy for my knees and hips. It's just not healthy because I do exactly the same shortening movement as when sitting, which is the cause of these problems.
Yes, through the interviews with you, I really also learned that the more variation we incorporate into our movement, barefoot with, without, then run fast, tap slowly down, big steps, small steps. I think that will be the key after all. Balance exercises that you can really stimulate the fasciae on all levels.
Elastic, springy, trampoline movement. Variation is key, and above all, more stretching than bending movements.
Great, thanks so much. In case our running enthusiastic viewers want to get started right now with this feeling of jogging with resilience, where can you get the best information?
You can easily find it on Google. Enter Kibun Joya, Kibun or Joya. Kibun is written K-Y-B-U-N and Joya J-O-Y-A.
Great.
There is surely enough.
So next time I will report how things went for me with my tennis and my shoes. I'm really looking forward to it because I was like, can I play tennis with them or not?
I'm curious.
I hope to see you soon, dear Carl, and thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Karina. It was my pleasure.
Dear sports-loving viewers, I hope you were able to take something away with you. It's always so exciting to have great guests here who always give you something on the way from this bouquet of possibilities. If you want to see more interviews on the subject of rebalancing hip pain or knee problems, feel free to go on qs24.tv. You can also enter Carl Müller as a search term, and you will find some exciting interviews on the subject. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful time. See you soon, and bye.